Ruination of democracy as we know it.
Oh, but it's good that the South Africa now owns the great big. I see people. Hello, Anthony. Hello, Mac. Hello to everyone that's here. I've started because there's nonsense afoot already. Elon Musk and Twitter. Well, no, it's like the South African space program. He's doing really well with that. Now he owns social media. I see some people because somebody said he was an African American.
He is.
Yeah, an African American. It's a bit of a stretch, isn't it? In some ways, but in other ways, but. Yeah, it's very interesting terminology for that. Definitely winding people up. But Ian is searching. That he's searching in his exhaustive list of social media contacts because of news just in that DJI is no longer selling to Russia. Russia and Ukraine, was it, Ian? Was it both?
Yeah, 2 seconds. It's under the news. Let me find it here and I'll post it in our side, Gary. 2 seconds.
Yeah.
Find it.
Bigger news than that is there's like a new group on Twitter. And the subject matter is, subject matter is, the get drone extravaganza. I'm a member. I'm keeping it kind and classy for once.
No, you're not. I don't believe that for a second.
No, I'm like
the 1 second.
De facto, bullshit detector guy.
Here you go. I'm just going to get my cup of tea. You started before you had a chance.
Right. I have started before. Well, no, we're on time now. All right, let's put this up before I put it up on SES News. I better get it up quick. Was that it? Oh, it's a very tiny statement. Oh, look out. Now we're in trouble. Where is he? Where's the dunk? There he is.
Probably got. Oh, there. Okay. Oh, jeez. Who let this guy in here?
It's lovely to see you. There were some terrible rumors on Ian's live stream on the weekend.
Yes.
Some scurrilous rumors of your demise, and we'd started the party. That was the thing. We had started the party, and then
I wasn't even invited. That's terrible.
Well, no, you had struggled. So,
posthumous invitation.
Yes. What picture am I going to use of this for? DJI is internally reassessing compliance requirements in various jurisdictions. Pending the current review, DJI will temporarily suspend all business activities in Russia and Ukraine. We are engaging with customers, partners, and stakeholders regarding the temporary suspension of business operations of.
What day?
How about a nice
launching later this month,
now.
Missile Pack 2. Get it for your DJI now.
Well, look, no,
Exactly.
if we're going to think this, well, what day are we into the special exercise? And they've announced this. I'm sorry, it's a bit late. Let's be realistic. It's,
Hey, better late than never,
True.
Only how many kids died, I don't know. Yeah, that whole thing is makes me sad every day.
It as Ian says, it's all a little bit too late, and just how many units can they get into there? I should imagine there are thousands and thousands and thousands of things in Ukraine now, thousands and thousands.
So does that mean they're going to make it a no-fly zone for drones, or are they just going to stop supplying new stuff? Or
I think this
How
is
did Bruce
business.
get in here?
Yeah.
How did Bruce get in here with these logical questions?
more importantly, when's he leaving?
Yes. Which DJI picture am I going to use? Let's find a DJI.
And Bruce, they can't do no-fly zones in areas and ground all these aircraft. That doesn't work unless you're, the FBI or American law enforcement.
It's a weird one because, look, it would have been okay. We shouldn't argue. We shouldn't nail this on just DJI because Autel haven't either. So actually, we have to be fair and say none of the major drone players globally stepped up and said we're going to stop on day one, or not even day one. Let's give it reasonable, week 1 to 1.5 or week 2. Doing it today is like a token gesture. It changes nothing at all at this point in time because all of the movement would already have happened. And let's be realistic. Do we honestly think product was going through official supply chain? Of course it wasn't. It was being bundled into the backs of transit vans and driven across borders and stuff like that. So pre-activated, pre-ready to go.
No, it's going through official dealers and all the stuff. I mean, it's obvious. I mean, how else can you buy stuff in the modern day? You can only buy through official dealers.
Well, I mean, they had that one dealer in Iraq who was selling parts, pieces, and components, including the caulking tubes and the shuttlecocks to make your own, bombs that you could drop off of the Phantoms and stuff, So I don't know. I wouldn't put it past anybody.
It's not a DJI specific problem either. They'd have been better doing nothing today. I'll be honest, because it changes nothing anyway. To say we're going to make sure. Okay, I suppose the Russian one has an effect. The Russian one has more of an effect for Russian consumers. It's not like consumers over in
Ukraine
are looking to buy Mini 3s so they can go and take images of the neighbor's house or anything like that. Well, they might be wanting to take.
We'll just wait till the shelling
neighbour's
stops and
house
rush out and
maybe.
buy the new DJI Mini 3. Yeah.
But they have, I suppose, and on the flip side of it, we should also congratulate because they are the only one to come out and say we're not going to do anything. Autel haven't said a word, so I just think it's a bit late.
But are there even any Autel drones out there? I mean, I don't know. I keep having this discussion.
Orange is the wrong color for a war zone.
No, come on. And Autel does not have enough for the supply that is needed. Come on. There's a global shortage of Autel drones.
Yeah.
The global
the other deal is that, and I can't even find it for some reason. I can't find the graphic. I went over to Jonathan Ruprecht's website and stole it. And I mean, it's so far and away the DJI share that it's not almost not even worth talking about the other companies. And I hate to sound negative, but there's just not really that much there besides DJI. Same deal here in the United States. The same thing with the AUVSI show. People are like, "Oh, you're not going to come and see the new tech." It's like it's just going to be, a cell phone app that works with a DJI drone, or you're going to tell me you got a new, use for a DJI drone like search and rescue or farming or aerial applications or, God, I don't know. I don't know how many times drones can be new in 30 years.
Oh, come on! Don't be like that, Patrick. I already placed an order for the new Mini 3.
Well, you're a fanboy, and I don't know, and that's okay.
I'm not a fanboy. I'm very curious on what they can do with that.
Me too. But I don't know. I mean, and I'm not really that upset about it. I just think that, here in the United States, and I don't know how you guys feel in the West, but I kind of have like this graphic in my mind of a canoe, a walk of excellence going over the waterfall with that oar that says CCP or PRC on it, going over the waterfall on the canoe that is the airspace integration effort. I feel kind of let down. I feel like there's a monopoly here. I feel like the hobbyist, the unaffiliated hobbyist, and the mom and pop kind of got screwed, and left out because there wasn't enough room for them in this canoe of excellence. Because you had Chinese interests and you had people that were dependent upon Chinese drones to be in business. And that's what we have here. We have an ecosystem that is entirely dependent upon Chinese technology, which is not bad. I love the Chinese.
That's not China's fault. That's not China's fault.
It's not China's fault at all.
You wouldn't blame them anyway.
I wouldn't go
But I'm going to blame
them.
You could.
You are for bad. I would say that their regulatory concepts were shaped around dumping product in the West, and we're like we've talked about it before, riding on the laurels of the 1960s here with ITAR. I'm still going through it. I sit on these SBIR webinars, and everybody's like, well, we need a drone, and it's got to be like a quadcopter, and we want it to be like DJI. It's like, well, an American manufacturer can't sell that. Who are they going to sell it to? And no one's going to buy it at, 6. I mean, another good thing about Ukraine. So AeroVironment's going to send they're sending like 10,000 of those commercial drones that they made, the Agbotic thing that they couldn't sell.
Yeah. They're dumping them, aren't they? They're dumping them.
Everybody, this is like a used clothes or something drive, a white elephant drive, where if you've got junk, you're Germany, and you got 200 tanks and mothballs from the 90s, send them to the Ukraine. You got some mobile artillery, send it to the Ukraine. You got junky drones, send them to the Ukraine. You get rid of it, and you can get the write-off. Nobody wanted that garbage. Anyway, so here we are. Everybody talks about STEM jobs and STEM education and all the rest of that stuff. And I see the whole aerospace industry going to China, your Class A adversary. It's disappointing. I think we should take a look at the rules that have been promulgated here in the United States and maybe, rescind some of them, or maybe at least go over them and see if they, let's say, unfairly benefit manufacturers from, China. Maybe even the RID thing too. And we haven't heard anything on that. Nobody's talking about that. The courts, I don't know what's going on there. I did hear there was a panel at AUVSI, and AUVSI's counsel was throwing shade on that court case, the Race Day Quads case, which to me, it's like, well, I thought you guys were advocates, for the industry and not people trying to crush it. That's me, though.
Yeah, I don't know. Are they on schedule to take the airspace? I'm not quite sure what they mean by that. What you mean by that, Hoverlogic?
Well, it might be, that new announcement that the counter UAS announcement, which is a whole nother, the government. The problem here that we have in the United States, and you probably have this in other Western countries, is most of the people that are in government have been in government way too long. Don't understand how the real world works, business, technology, any of this stuff. And people are acting like there's some magical solution for counter UAS, and it's.
But there is because Dedrone has announced they've got an AI Dedrone system to coincide with this new Dedrone. Well, when are they coming on, Gary? When are they coming on?
I haven't seen that. Are you being hounded with adverts again?
No, I saw it on the news. It was in the news feed.
Yeah, they got some AI self-learning. And then, a few years ago, I did an interview with the General Accounting Office here in the United States. And they were like, well, what do we do? And I said, well, for the foreseeable future, you're going to have to keep VIPs close to cover, because there's, you're not going to use the Phalanx system. It's going to be kinetic. Remember the old days when the counter drone system, it was like Planet of the Apes, and the drone flew over with the net? And got the hovering drone. You remember those? I don't see many of those anymore. Or people I've got acoustic drone detection, or I've got, I got my drone gun, and I look at these drone light shows, thousands of drones. What are you gonna?
Well, that's swarming technology, isn't it? That's swarming technology for the military. Let's not sugarcoat that. That's why
they just have giant QR codes that will reprogram the incoming cruise missiles through their optical systems.
Did you see that fellow that spoofed the whole city, putting a QR code up in there just for eats and giggles?
But that goes back to so swarm tech now. If the system was smart enough, a swarm could do so much more damage. You could literally wipe out entire cities very easily. All you need instead of chucking this big artillery thing.
Have you seen the manpower that is needed to put up a simple 3-minute slideshow? Come on, it's not peanuts.
Well, it's going to be easier than moving a heavy artillery gun that can't move once you've put it in place, that the enemy could easily find. Where the drones, once you've set them off, you can do a runner.
Yeah, and you have to do that in 3 to 5 minutes. Come on, Mark.
That's more than possible.
Yeah, you have to be right by the next door to make it
what you're going to
effective.
hit.
Well, what if you used a mothership concept from a Turkish drone, and they only had to fly for 3 minutes, and it's an updated or a variation on, a internationally outlawed cluster bomb,
Yeah.
Oh, well, it's not a cluster bomb; it's a drone swarm, I don't know. I think that we've discounted, let's say, other countries, developing technology countries. The other thing that people don't are like, oh, well, we have these new drones in Syria, or we have rebels that are using drones to attack the Saudis or whatever. These people have been doing this stuff for since 2010. The Iranians have been working on drones and giving them to bad actors. Chinese have been working on it since 2010. I for one, or even the DJI drones. I mean, I for one had been laughed out of many a conference for even suggesting that anything like this would ever be here one day. And it's
I
here.
think the Iranian one that you mentioned is quite interesting because they had that. There was last. They did put up some images of things that weren't there, and we discovered that, and all those sort of things, probably 2010 ago. But then they had their big competition, their student competition, and my word, it was on the nail with the and that was loitering munitions, wasn't it? I seem to recall, one of them was, and suddenly the West got a bit worried. So yeah, time and time again. There's a general, I think, well, it's just exceptionalism, isn't it? It's the idea that the UK or America or Australia are the only people capable of creating autonomous systems, and it's just nonsense, as we all know, as Bruce knows. You can even make a cruise missile.
Yeah, well, that's the beauty of this technology, really. I think that we could probably all agree on that. Is this was something that anyone could do in their garage, or the garden shed, put it together and start using it. And that the claptrap, like that, there were no autopilots in the early 2000s. That's like, until DJI came around, there was no autopilot.
No.
That's not even a lie. That's a total fabrication reality. So that was one of the things that I really felt made this technology different, was that you didn't have to be a country where you're buying, high-tech components, or you couldn't get them. You just order it on the internet and slap it together, and away we go. And other people have realized that too.
And it is crazy. I mean, it's a shame that you couldn't almost go to these meetings and just show up with a bag of bits. Here's where I got it all from, Banggood or eBay or whatever. And go, there you go. I bought this off the internet. This is what it made. Let's go outside and see it fly, because it can do everything that you think.
They'll arrest you for instructing terrorists on how to build these things.
Well, the other thing you have to realize is there's no money in that. Okay, so even now, I talk to supposed smart people all the time, and people who are wringing their hands that you can't get anything done here. So we know how it works in the West. It probably works like this in the East too. But money talks and bullshit walks, and people are doing stuff. If you've got lobbyists, that are powerful lobbyists, you can do what you want to do. If you're mom and pop, you can't do what you want to do. You talk about doing stuff with grassroots. A lot of the drone lobbyists are too afraid to upset the FAA. They don't want to do anything that would even ruffle a feather over there at the FAA. So they'd just be happy to take your membership money monthly, yearly, whatever, and just sit on their hands or bite their lip and say, well, there's nothing we can do about it. Meanwhile, if you got, a lobbyist in your, I don't really want to out any of these Fortune 500 companies, you can do what you want to do. The only exception to that are the clowns over at Amazon and the travesty over at Google Wing. I mean, did you guys read that article about Amazon and the $2 billion and, the forest fire and all the rest of that? Did that make the news over there?
Well, no, I only made the news for me because I'm interested in these sort of things. But yeah, there we are. Squishy. Well, no, Squishy. Yeah, only because I'm interested in these things. But the Amazon thing it's been a non-starter from day one, hasn't it? Really. I'm just going to put up a tweet which has been subsequently deleted by the person who did tweet it. I was just trying to find their exact title, but I think it's very interesting. What browser did I put it in? It's in Chrome. Where is it? Where is it? This has gone very well. Here we are. Former secretary to, I think, Grant Shapps, a Minister of Transport in the UK, or someone like that. Anyway, right up there, civil servant. He pulled this down after we started saying, "Oh yeah, we'll talk about that." So yeah, it's very, very interesting. Be very, very interesting. Hooray for the Wayback Machine! Very, very interesting to know what that's quite a thing, isn't it? From the guy's personal secretary to Grant Shapps, I think it was. Oh no, private secretary for Chris Grayling. There we are, and Grant Shapps.
Was he really stupid enough to post that publicly?
Yeah, he did.
He did.
Yeah, he did.
I think he might have had a pint of his own.
Or was he really trying to get a reaction?
He got a reaction from a few. Go on, Mark.
He did. I was one of the ones, and I said, "I'll buy you a pint. I'll buy you a pint. Tell me everything." I literally. And what's really interesting is I actually got a call from an ex-BBC reporter, and they were trying to track down this tweet as well. So he has caught the attention of a few people.
Yes.
With this comment, because I think we can safely say there was never a drone at Gatwick. I now believe we can now say with 99% certainty there was not a rogue drone at Gatwick. I think we can all agree.
I don't know if we can draw that from this, but we can certainly say. I think we can.
From the whole,
I don't know.
From everything, if we look at the big picture, we look at everything. Leonardo system didn't detect a drone. Metis Aerospace didn't detect a rogue drone. So even if there was that initial sighting on day one in wind and rainy conditions, let's bear in mind wind and rain in the first evening, to the systems not detecting anything, it now looks like there was definitely something else afoot. And I now suspect it was a ransomware hack of some kind, because they've been going on in the UK for a few companies, and they don't want people to know that it's major infrastructure like Gatwick, because that would be so embarrassing that an airport is brought to a halt by ransomware, for example. They needed a cover story to sort it out. What's the best cover story you can come up with that means you can literally hide what really happened?
Mark, ransomware is the 2021, 2022 trend. It was not the trend back then. So,
well, 2018 it was. Back in 2018, ransomware was going on.
It was back. It was around.
Yeah,
back then.
2018. It was big. It was really going on. It was big stuff back then.
Yeah, it was invented to justify cryptocurrency.
Yeah, so 2018 when it happened, there was a big spate of it, and ATCs were having problems anyway, weren't there? There's a few system crashes going on anyway.
Yeah. Well, within 2 weeks of Gatwick, wasn't there an issue at another place?
Yeah, Heathrow and at Birmingham. Birmingham had a fire, and Heathrow also had an issue. Joburg had an issue, and I think Miami had an issue as well.
Coincidence?
It is a coincidence. Exactly right. Yes, a bit like all these coincidences that are happening in Russia.
Of a guy getting the lottery 3 weeks in a row.
I think it's unreasonable to suggest that people with so much to lose would tell lies.
If he accidentally cuts off his head while shaving, we'll know what happened, and it was clearly an accident. Yeah,
it's interesting, isn't it? It speaks to the government. Patrick mentioned the government and people being around a while, but it's interesting that a former private secretary can have such a throwaway comment that has massive implications. massive implications. So I'll tell you what really happened.
Yeah,
You probably put that out on Twitter, and the phone was blowing up. Oh, and then what do they call that over there? Is a pranging or something that you get from the boss? Are you nuts?
Well, we have that tweet backed up. So that tweet has been backed up fully.
Oh, come on,
you cannot
guys.
escape from it at all.
That was during the Boris party in the garden. The tweet was sent during a party in the garden of Boris.
Someone hacked his phone. What happened was he went to the toilet and he came out from the toilet and someone had broken into his house, typed that tweet and sent it. And the miraculous thing was we don't know how they got in. There was no damage in the property.
That's an Israeli 0-day
No.
exploit.
No. Someone cut his finger or ripped up his eyeball and did the authentication.
I saw that movie. It was great.
That takes a bit of What happened was he met this lady in a bar. He met this lady in a bar, and she said, "Can I borrow your phone to phone a friend a minute?" And she just typed this random message.
Terrible when people do that.
If it was conservative, I should have said ladyboy. Sorry.
And all of this is more believable than the claims there was a drone at Gatwick.
Yeah. So what I'm going to do is maybe tomorrow I'm going to snapshot that tweet and then copy in like Chris Garrett. I'm going to copy in Grayling, copy in Grant Snaps, and copy in Mr. Forrester as well, and let them have it and go, come on then, tell us the truth. It's 2018. Come on, it's been a few years. Just see if you get, like poke the bear a bit. Let's just poke the bear.
Think of the fallout of that, though. I mean, for them to ever admit, because I remember, over here, the news story every night it was on the news, and and it shut down, and the holidays, and then the running tally of how much it cost, and the people, and then those poor people they trotted out, Mr. Hangdog and his wife trotted them out, and they were like, there they are, these are the birds.
The headline was these are the idiots that ruined Christmas. That was the headline that was on the paper, and it's not just that, it changed. I got friends and they said
it's calling right now, knock it off, don't tell anybody.
Yeah, you Louis. What's happening there? They're coming to get us already.
But here's the thing. I wonder what would have happened. So, because it was a drone incident, Gatwick didn't have to pay out because it was malicious. So now, if it was ransomware, would Gatwick have had to pay out?
Yeah.
What I want to know is,
yes, they would.
What differences? Because was it a way for Gatwick to take a nice way to go, do you know what? This is going to cost us a few quid. We're going to need a way out on this. And was the way out going, it was a drone, it was malicious, therefore we won't take any crap for this, someone else go.
So what you're saying is they had like a calculator, the inept calculator. Okay, we're going to look like we're total dumbasses and we stuffed it hard on this one, or we go with door number 2 and we didn't know what was going on out there. I can see it. I think we'll give them too much credit here for too much thinking. I think they had it. I suspect we were told right at the very time from sources in America and sources in the UK that there was a security issue and they had to shut it down quickly, and that's what it was about. And the fact that go on, Mark.
Don't forget the police officer that said there wasn't probably a drone on site. He's now left the police
straight away.
Well.
Yes, that's right. He had to find a new job. Tingley. Yeah.
Is the security issue though not that possibly they were hacked and made to show something that wasn't there, and they were told there was drones? I think there may be some semantics here on physical versus what they believed, but was this the fact that they were told there may be a drone carrying explosives or something, and then they were shown radar data through some form of...
radar data will never see a drone.
What was that movie that had a computer character called Joshua?
The drone thing came very quick. So they would have either had to have genuinely thought there was one or come up with a very quick story.
Or had this already organised well in advance as a mitigation for anything like that.
And why then, if it was used as a cover story, would you go after those people? That bit of it doesn't make sense.
True.
Because the police
use it as a cover story.
The police didn't know. It would be the airport authorities would have told the police be acting in good faith, thinking, we've caught them. They didn't know it was a big cover-up.
Yeah, and also remember,
but that would take more than one person.
But Tingley was saying there was no drone. He was saying, and they still arrested those people afterwards. So we had one police officer going, probably not a drone, and within 2 days, people were arrested for no drone. That a police officer said live on TV. He said
that was a neighbour, wasn't it? So there was him over there.
There was something that they were looking for. There was something I find, because if they wanted to just blame some random hacking on a drone, they didn't need to go after anyone. They could have just gone, there's drones, we've shut it down, we're trying to get them caught. There was clearly something they were trying to mitigate against. Whether it was there or not, an entirely different conversation. And I think it's more likely there was some form of terrorist incident that they don't want to give up, because in the end they were made to look like a total bunch of plonkers, and that's the basic reality of it. And they chased ghosts for 3-4 days.
Is this close enough to be like the drones of Baskerville or something, and we can get
because people say about conspiracy
street quick
to think more. The laws of things always apply. To think it's like the old thing, how many people are going to hold up a lie? So for people to lie about something, once more than one person knows, it's going to get out, and it would have got out by now. If the airport management, there'd be a secretary, someone will be going, this ain't right. It would have come out. It would only take one disgruntled member of staff. Secrecy never holds outside the military particularly well.
Isn't that the guy on Twitter?
Yeah, well, that's a few years later.
That back up, yeah.
But that's from the government side. It would have leaked. My feeling is they genuinely thought something was there, or they were under the impression of there may be a risk.
Who do you mean by they? Because the airport authority probably said there's a drone, and the police were just following on the premise that they've been told there's a drone.
Yeah, but they wouldn't be there for 3 days on that premise.
Yeah, they would be, because the airport authorities say, no, we had reports, it's been seen again. The police are going, could have given a bit of look at it.
Don't forget, here's one of the really bizarre things. The Suffolk police said there was 94, 97 reliable witnesses for a drone. Reliable. Now, Mr. Stephen Roberts could never be a disgruntled civil servant at all after what he said just there, would he? With the truth. Just hiding. So Suffolk police had these 94 to 97 people that were reliable witnesses. What's also really, really interesting, something we should not forget, is no rogue drone was seen in daylight hours. All the rogue drone sightings were at night in the dark.
And there is absolutely no written description of what people saw.
We know that the aviation industry defines reliable somewhat differently to the rest of the world. After all, the changes to the MAX 8 reliably mitigated the adverse reaction to the engine thrust.
Yes. Yeah, and so there's a couple of things about Gatwick that never make sense. So why weren't the planes flying in the daytime? Because if the sightings of the rogue drone were only at night, why were the planes not flying in daytime? You've got these 94 to 97 reliable witnesses with no written description, as you've said. It makes a complete farce out of Suffolk police. You wouldn't trust them to open a can of beans, let alone a can of worms. They spent £900,000 plus on this investigation and got squat for it. It reads so bad. When you look at all the freedom of information requests, and let's face it, Ian Hudson is someone we should all go thank you so much to. Ian has been amazing. There's no two ways about it. It's down to him we have found out so much.
It is, and it'll be a shame when he accidentally cuts off his head shaving, or electrocutes himself randomly changing his wiring at home. And
it'd be another one of those suicides where the guy shot himself in the head 4 times.
Yeah,
Well, that's what,
blame it on squirrel chew, on a wire. It was crazy.
what he doesn't realise is the authorities have gone and just done a little bit of dodgy wiring for him. They're going to get him.
They've already done it. Yeah, he was there last week. I'm like, yeah, oh god.
But
Don't
it's
get me
amazing. So
started.
there's your civil servant. There's your person making the truth come out or beginning to. I wonder in my lifetime if we're ever going to know the
stupid thing
truth of
is,
it.
why wouldn't he just go to a journalist and say, "Can we go and have a chat?"
Well, there's a few asking to chat to him now. I promise you.
Everyone knows.
I've spoken to
Twitter is going to get free. Twitter is going to get free speech for everyone. So now we can go on Twitter and put the truth out there.
There was a drone on the grassy knoll.
As long as it suits the new overlord.
I've been to that grass.
John saying that
more
one.
of a slope than a knoll.
There's one.
You realise that's an offensive racist term.
Exactly. You can't. Well, thank you very much, Patrick. That's
what the knoll is, the grassy knoll.
Yeah, the knoll part. Yeah, that's it, the knoll part.
Okay, well, we should change it anyway because it's not really that. It's a little bit of a teeny hill with a white picket fence. When you go to, everybody know you go to like some historic location and you go, wow, you go there, you think it's going to be big and grandiose, and you get there and you're like, wow, there's really nothing here.
It's like Stonehenge, small and insignificant.
Race day quads. A couple of questions about race day quads there. To mention before, where are we at with that? Do we know, Patrick?
Yeah, we're still in a holding pattern. We're waiting for something. It seems like over here we did get some Supreme Court stuff. Some opinions came out, but for some reason things are really slow right now. We were supposed to get something. I want to say it was back in March. We're now in April. Nothing. Like I said, there was a panel at AUVSI and AUVSI's council, kind of through cast some doubts on some of the arguments made by the race day quads people, which I thought they were all pretty solid. Even in this instance, when we go back to the we go back to the Gatwick thing and round up the usual suspects, and they went and arrested the guy and his wife because he was an RC hobbyist. I mean, that to me that sounds like totalitarian, developing world stuff, like where you go get somebody and see what happens, round somebody up. So that's what I'm concerned with the RID thing, and it does tie into this new counter drone thing with all of these different exceptions. Remember all of the talk with the RID and the registration. The registration was going to usher in this era of accountability, and then the wind was blowing where local law enforcement was going to do all the enforcement and municipalities were going to keep the fines, and we had the guy from DJI say that he nipped that right in the bud. That wasn't going to happen, which is a bunch of crap. Because soon as the municipalities smell the teeny, they're like great white sharks. You drop a drop of blood in the ocean, and those bastards are swirling around, and they want their money. And before this deal's over, I got to really tell you, what I really see is just clamping down so hard on this drone thing that it will be like manned aviation, and it will become so regulated and so expensive that it will basically die a slow death.
Worse than manned aviation, because now everyone's crashing planes to get YouTube clicks.
Yes.
Not only that,
finally they revoked his license, which I don't think was enough. Just revoke.
Yeah, but look at the Red Bull thing. Look at that Red Bull thing.
Which one?
When they tried to change planes, crash.
I didn't see that.
Two skydivers. Boom. Yeah, I think the FAA didn't give them clearance to do it either, and they went ahead and did it anyway, from what I heard. But well, seriously, what's going on in the manned aviation community? Just buy a plane, put a camera on it, crash it, millionaire.
Yeah, that's well, even besides the people not doing stunts. I mean, we've got aircraft crashing all the time here. Everybody keeps tooting the horn that we're doing safety, and I don't know, if it's because people weren't flying with COVID or whatever. I mean, it surprises me. You guys probably do this too. It'll be storming and you hear like some small aircraft flying around out there. It's like, was it that important that you needed to? And when are we going to talk about vertiports? I want to talk about that vertiport that opened up in.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Can we, when
Yeah, I've had one for years. I'm living the dream, man. I'm living the dream. It's
the bars open at Vertiport, South Africa, right? I mean, you sell peanuts and snacks and stuff out there.
We did have, because my other mate who's also tweeted to the effect, deliveries between his other one and this new one up the road. Somebody asked us, how do we get? They started being very serious about us, how we got around the regulations. So we managed to keep them going for quite a while with our groundbreaking technologies and vision plans and all that sort of thing, mood charts, wall charts, and all that stuff.
You got ring cameras in the trees.
The whole Vertiport concept's ultimately doomed, because as soon as they take off, someone will go, "Oh, look, a drone!" They'll shut it down.
Well, not only that, so they got this. It's all over the place. What is it in Coventry? They've got this.
Yeah.
Okay, so anybody, I haven't flown a manned helicopter. I have flown, drones or whatever else. And I look at this, it's like, could you have more stuff in the way that I could prop strike on the way in? Is anybody giving it all away here? Well, I'm giving it away right now because everybody's asking me what. Because I posted on LinkedIn. I'm like, this design is absurd. This is totally absurd. Well, what's wrong with it? Tell us what's wrong with it. Well, you're landing in this ground effect machine, or the sliding doors.
Ring vortex.
Yeah, exactly. And then I got to drop it in the pickle barrel, and there's usually signposts with saying Vertiport and light posts, and it's like, come on, man, are you guys, who's hitting the pipe over here? And the other thing is, even this Joby, they're full stream ahead. We're not hearing. No, I didn't see the report published on the mishap. And then, what is it? Airbus is making that H130, and I think, what is it? The decibels, it's 76 decibels. So and it can fly 300 and some odd nautical miles and carry 7 people. And I got to have Wisk come in and to carry 2 people and build a new aircraft and recertification, so it can be like 6 decibels, quieter. I'm not getting it. And maybe I'm not the sharpest tool in the shed. No comments on that.
I wouldn't say a thing. No, that wasn't running through my mind.
Patrick, we're old, and we know little of the new technologies that have been developed.
But who thinks these things are going?
When you get disgruntled employees of a big company, they will form a new company and reduce the price, and nobody would believe what they could produce.
But it doesn't matter what these vertiports look like, even if they're covered with bunting and things, because they're never going to be used.
There's no aircraft. There's no training for an aircraft. They don't exist yet. You can't, even in the UK, I don't think there's a drone company that could fly there. There's maybe one that could fly their BV loss, land, maybe deliver something to look impressive, and then take off and fly. But there's no other vertiport, so where is it going to?
Well, come on, a vertiport's a field. Let's be honest about this. You don't have to have a weird shaped building in the middle of Coventry. It's an airfield. There's loads of general aviation airfields that are desperate for extra trade. They've already got the infrastructure. They're already there. They're already on the charts.
But they already have helicopters there.
But that vertiport, like Patrick says, why the hell can't it take a helicopter from the get-go? Because right now it can't be made full use of. If it could have taken a helicopter is a VTOL. It is vertical takeoff and landing machine. It is what it's built to do. Yes, it beats air into submission to get off the ground because it's just, they're violent things as they do it. But if it could do that, it could be used out of the get-go. But no, it's completely design flawed from the get-go. It's going to sit there as a white elephant for so long. It's going to lose the money running it unless they get certified aircraft, within another year or so, maybe 2 years, and pilot courses. Will it ever make any money, or is it just going to be one of those white horses or white elephants or whatever that you call them, where it's there, looks nice, but the tech isn't quite there yet?
It would be great if it was, and I'm hearing echoes of LSA, light-sport aircraft. And everybody was talking about how they were going to be $35,000 because you didn't have to do the certification, and my dog has got fleas or whatever. fantasy story that they had why it was going to be cheap. This isn't going to be cheap, and the people that are going to fly these, to be able to drop it, in the H like that or whatever, they're either going to have to be totally automated. And then you have all of that DO certification. That's even in the drone thing. They're talking about, cybersecurity and blah, blah, blah. And there's already some sort of DO certification for aircraft, cybersecurity, and all the rest of the stuff. It's just really, really expensive. And, remember when they kept talking if there was a drone crash, the bottom was going to fall out of this industry? Just imagine with one of these, aircraft is zipping through the canyons of, some major city London. And there's, you have that attenuation or whatever with GPS, and the thing just grazes a building, falls into the street, kills everyone down below. And the only beauty of it in Europe is you guys have limits on aviation liability. We're here in the United States, sky's the limit. But, I think that would dampen people's. It's kind of like when they tried it before here in LA and the Disneyland flights, and those people died.
That's right. That's right.
Got rid of it. Those were nails in the coffin.
Was that the 60s or the 50s? It was very, very early on, wasn't it?
60s. Yeah, no, it was the 60s because you remember everybody seen that movie with Steve McQueen, Bullet, right?
Yeah.
And they had SFO helicopters had a sign behind one of the scenes in the movies, and they were going at the same time. But really, one of the crashes, I think it was the grandson or one of the relatives of the guy that owned the company died on the deal. They're throwing mail bags out the side. It was a catastrophe, and people didn't want to do it anymore. But it was heavily, heavily subsidized. And I think people even here were hoping that there would be Build Back Better money to build these beautiful vertiports that you have to drive your car to.
Well, that's why I have to joke vertiport, because even having the joke vertiport, it makes you start thinking about what would actually be required, and the list gets quite long, quite quick. Reliable power, as you say, a car park, place for this, place for that, this, that, all the other. You quickly come around to, why don't we use all the small airfields everywhere? They're everywhere already.
What about air traffic control for incoming and outgoing to make sure no one hits each other? There must be an ATC at these places, surely.
They wouldn't. I don't think they'd be able to handle the traffic to make it pencil. And the other thing is I will say that there's cracks in the story where they were talking about it was all going to be under 400 feet, and I think people are starting to realize now that you're not going to get the 6 million drones and the million AAMs in that airspace under 400 feet. It's not plausible. So then when you get over 400 feet or 500 feet, then you're going to have to, dovetail with the existing ATC. And
what gets really interesting though, so I don't know about America, but here to overfly city, manned aviation should be 1,000 feet plus, so they can get glide scope to get over the urban area they're over. So these urban air mobilities, they could actually exist in like 500 to 1,000 feet. They could exist in this area. You've got a ticker somewhere, Gary. It's going to say manned aviation not below a certain height.
Oh yeah, I do, don't I? Yeah,
you do. Right. So what we could do is we could actually push general aviation above 2K, and we can create the buffer that's needed. So you'd have drones that we operate commercially.
That's what will happen. That's what will happen.
So
something like that will happen.
And then we need to shove manned aviation up a bit, and that would be really good.
But this is the other one that we need to put
on. And our last names will be Mr. Jetson. So you're living in the Jetsons era? Come on.
Well, I think fusion-powered AAMs are the way to go, because fusion is about as far away as urban mobility.
Yeah.
Did you ever find the video?
Dovan, sorry if I'm getting that wrong, is making a good point about urban air mobility or delivery or whatever that's working, and that is Zipline in Rwanda and a few other countries as well.
Doesn't that say more about their roads than anything?
It does. But that's
more about the
but then it says that you have to pick your use cases. The centre of Coventry is probably served by X motorways, railway stations, canals even. So what do they need? Why do they need this new way of doing stuff? If you're in Rwanda, yeah, there's no roads. You need it. So that's what I'm trying to say. Is it speaks more to, well, yeah, it's going to work in the right place, but not everywhere.
Yeah, so what $100 million investment, is it going to work? I mean, but there were some of these countries that were saying, look, but the investment that you guys are putting into the Zipline deal, we could rebuild the whole medical system in the country.
Yes, yes. That was Ghana, wasn't it?
So I think that,
it gets very interesting. So most cities in the UK are not that bad. It's not like, we're not like LA, where, if you go on, what's the interstate for going around LA? I've been on it. I can't remember it. If you get stuck on the
405, the 10, it's all 10. Man.
So if you get stuck on the 10, right, I think it's a 10. If there's something goes wrong on the 10, you can be on that for 12 hours if you're not careful. That is a nasty one because it goes right from the top, comes right down, doesn't it? If I remember correctly, it's absolutely hell. I've been on it.
Time I was in London driving around, I was like, Jesus, Mary, and Joseph, I got to get out of here.
So now, London is a city where urban air mobility, if you wanted to go across the city, London's a great example in the UK because that will benefit from urban air mobility linked to the tube. The problem is the tube is so fantastic already.
I know, you don't even need it.
Yeah,
the tube, it's great. It works so good that this is like you really don't. Yeah, again, this is uber well.
If only we could combine something that flies with a tube, Hyperloop. Oh, Elon, where are you?
But then you've also got smaller cities. So my city where I am, for example, it only takes you 20 minutes to drive across it or less. Why would you need urban air mobility here? If I want to go to like the next town, which would be Newark, or I wanted to go to Hull, just get in the car. It's 20-minute drive either sort of way. It's 20 minutes, 30 minutes down the road, which would be the same as getting in an aircraft that flies. It makes the logic's
driving.
Everyone complains that taxis are too expensive here. So who's going to pay these prices?
I know, well, if you want to go to Glastonbury or whatever, and you got your outfit on, and I don't want to get all upset in traffic where I'm going to Glasgow, to hear.
As Bruce says, but then you are in your Eurocopter and you've come all the way from London in your twin squirrel or whatever, your lovely, lovely, lovely machine.
So take Farnborough Airport. So we'll take Farnborough Airport now, right, which is one of the main airports where let's say the people with money will fly into Farnborough. It's full of private jets. It was bought by an American company. They took a load of airspace grab. They did everything. That's where, if you've got a few quid and you're flying into the UK privately, you'll go to Farnborough. And how do they get from Farnborough to London? I'll give you a guess what mode of transport they use. The helicopter. They'll use helicopters out of Farnborough and they'll just fly into London Heliport. Urban air mobility at its best. Fly into a private airport, get out, get in the helicopter. It's only at the same airport and fly straight into London. That's how it works.
And I think the interesting thing with that is that Skyports bought Battersea. So you might argue that a drone company already owns a vertiport and it's a very famous one, Battersea. Yeah. So,
But if I could afford a G6 or I can afford the helicopter ride. I'm not looking at let me see. I'm going to go over here. Hold on. Let me check the app because I'm going to see here if I can save $5 to fly over there.
That's how you get rich. 1 penny at a time, mate. Bring back the Feely Rotodyne.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a good design. It just nobody could hear anything for a week afterwards once they'd flown on it. It was a great idea.
I think urban mobility will have its place. Yeah, so in Wales, Ian knows Wales very well, of course. There are certain places in the country, but the problem is you have to have a town or a city that would support these kind of usage cases all the time. So Cardiff would probably be a great place, but where do you link Cardiff to? Where does the main source come from to go into that city? Because a train can carry 200 people, 300 people on it versus a flying machine that can only carry 6 people.
Well,
Trains
and
always
then
make sense. You're just going to have the system's just going to be maintained and sorted out, isn't it? Trains always make sense as long as your
not here
system's
in
kept up.
The
California.
trains, you'll be able to make trains driverless. To be honest, while we have, and this sounds terrible, I'm going to get rid of people's jobs here now. While we have trains that have drivers in them and conductors, almost seems nonsensical. Now, with today's tech, you should be able to have a train that can go from A to B, stop at every station. It knows everyone's on board. It's got the sensors. It can see the line. It can read the traffic. It can read its signals. It knows what it's doing. A, B, C, D.
Yeah,
And you could
that's
run
what
them.
they call humans, and humans don't trust machines. And if they see a train besides the airport trains that are without a driver, they will be scared of using it. Period.
Well, I think the French have it going in the metro. They have driverless trains, and it's
And we
all
have it in London. We have it in
does,
London.
London does, yeah.
But that's
London
why
has it.
you still have the drivers, because people don't want to ride on that. Those studies were done many years ago.
Yeah.
Johnny cabs, just make them like Johnny cabs.
So it's really bizarre because London Tube, you have a driver, but if you get on, is it the London? Oh, what's it called? There's
The
London
one out
Shore.
the Docklands.
The Docklands Railway, that is driverless. You get on that, there's nobody on, there's no driver. You just get on it. You trust it to do its thing. So the technology is proven that it's just, unfortunately, humans, we don't trust the machine.
I don't know that the saving is because it would be quite expensive to have it autonomous, and having a person on board does have a sort of
So you pay a driver
feeling of-
40 grand a year. You'll pay a driver 40 grand a year. Plus his holidays, plus you need more than one, plus he wants his holidays, he wants his breaks, he wants a pay rise every year. Automation doesn't want
He
any
wants
of
to
those
go on
things.
strike. You're forgetting. He needs to go on strike.
Yeah, automation doesn't
But
interact.
they're not as easily hacked as a computer controlled
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, but a computer controlled system,
Hey,
don't
Bill.
put it on the internet. If you're going to have a computer system, just don't connect it to the internet. Make it so it's self-contained, for crying out loud. Stop connecting everything to the internet. That's our mistake.
Well,
that is
And
Every
put a USB plug
need
on
more
every-
escalators
on
and
every
travelators.
station. Put a USB plug on every tube station so that you can insert your malware on the system. Come on.
close the system off. Just close it off. Why would you put a nuclear power station onto the main internet grid? Why would you do it?
So
Why
you
would
can operate it from home while you've got cable.
Yeah. From your app. Hang on a minute. My nuclear power station, or whatever they call it. My little power station.
Oh, my phone's very
power
hot. What's
station.
happening? Oh,
Yeah.
It's this fresh and red light.
Oh, Ian's got to go. He's got a 6-hour drive in the morning.
I have a 6-hour
he-
drive at 5 o'clock tomorrow morning.
Hey,
He lives right on
you
that
going
way.
on driverless car or
No, I
something
don't.
like that?
I don't own a driverless car. I wish I did own a driverless car because I could actually go to
Fine.
sleep.
Dude.
on that.
Then
Don't park it
use
near
one of
a
those
jet airplane.
vertiports. Use on one of those vertiports. Don't you have
Yes.
vertiports available?
Haverford West.
Vertiport South Wales. I'm going to open it. I'm going to take control, and then I'm going to sell the data from it and post it on Twitter. Then once I've sold it, of the rich and famous and where they've been traveling to. Hey, how long before that guy who has been publishing data on Twitter suddenly gets banned?
Yeah,
You owner.
Oh yeah, I've forgotten about that. Yeah,
Yeah.
you're right. You're exactly right. I'd forgotten.
Could be
about
just Mr. Musk's way of hiding his travel details. He just buy the platform instead.
that. Yeah, that would be amazing if that happens, wouldn't it? That would be amazing. Absolutely amazing. All right. Well, actually, I mean, let's just we'll let go if you must go. Otherwise, let's just wrap it up quickly. Because then we could try and get in under an hour. That national, we didn't talk about the whatever it was called, the national thingy that was a thingy in America that's basically going to, as Patrick mentioned, usher in more remote ID and more counter UAS systems.
But there are none. I mean, everybody,
But there are,
well, we talked about, the drone swarm thing, and there may be some difficulty or whatever, but I don't think that kinetic, the company that makes the Phalanx system, yeah, it's going to be counter drone. And, I mean, you can't use that in a urban area, I'm going to be throwing, projectiles everywhere. You can't use the net, and you can't jam. Somebody was asking me, well, if you had a G20 thing, what do you, well, why wouldn't you just do jamming? And could you imagine if you had like a G20 meeting and for some reason they just jammed all comms? I mean, it'd be pandemonium. And you imagine every country that's there, can't get in touch with their leader security team or secretaries or whatever. They don't even know what's going on. You'd have pandemonium. So we don't really have anything usable. The aeroscope thing, that wasn't even a Band-Aid thing, is a hunk of junk as far as I'm concerned. Remember the mitigation was that you were going to send emails to, these bad actors. Hey, buddy. And the other thing is you got Kevin Finisterre and the crew of those people have already figured out how to spoof the RID numbers. I think you can get on Reddit or whatever, and you can, download patches and put somebody else's ID number in there.
Come on, but that's something that exists already for so many things. Come on, we all know about cloning SIM cards, and how many years do we have cell phones and SIM cards? So it is natural. Come on, something that the man does, some other guy can undo. And that's what Kevin and the other guys are doing.
Those aren't solutions. We're seeing that here in the United States with guns. California has got some of the strictest gun laws in the United States. And what's happening is you're not enforcing the existing laws. And so people that aren't supposed to have guns have machine guns, which machine guns are outlawed. You're not supposed to have those. You have background checks to get ammunition. You got this, that, and the other safeguard, and they all fail because the system is, in my estimation, what's happening is they're not enforcing the law, and they're not doing the long prison sentences. Remember the old debt to society and all the rest of that, because it's expensive. We talked about unmanned trains. Prison guards here in California, last time I checked, it was like they were making $80,000 a year or more. Was the average. Very expensive to keep people incarcerated. But if you don't keep people incarcerated, you have recidivism and people die. And that's what's going on over here now. So it's the same deal with the drone. You can have and I told them that during the ARC. I go to the FAA, you can have all the rules you want. If you do not have enforcement, no one's going to pay attention. And even now they're telling people the reason that we don't have any drone accidents is because the FARs are working, which I say just go on to YouTube for an afternoon and look at some video there. Yeah, I don't know how it is where you guys are, but here, if you watch any of these shows, my wife likes to watch reality TV, and they're flying over the 10, they're flying over the 405, they're flying over Sunset Boulevard. The local news is flying over Highway 80 and 50 and all these major highways, which is supposedly illegal. So people are breaking the law and flaunting it all the time. So that the government doesn't really understand what's going on out there, what really is involved with technology, what it all means. We're just going to make some more ham-fisted regulation that'll just make it impossible for domestic companies to compete.
The only time I get a bit uppity is when something bad happens. When that M300 falls out the road onto the I-80 and causes a mass pileup, then they'll get a bit uppity. But until then,
Well, it's just unsafe. My thing with it is, and maybe again, I'm kind of a pragmatist or whatever, but whenever I'm flying, I'm trying to mitigate the risk in my mind of what I'm doing first. And not only because I'm a good Samaritan, I would feel horrible if I hurt somebody. You know what I'm saying? Like, right, dumping 300 on some kid's head or into a pram, I'd be like, oh God, like he's going to be wearing an eye patch for the rest of his life. I hope he likes pirates.
So generally, I don't have a problem when I cross a road. So take a motorway, which is the same as an interstate for the most part. I generally do not have a problem crossing them at height at 60 meters, because the worst place for me to fail, for my aircraft to absolutely fail, the worst place will be just before I start crossing it. I won't stop and hover, but I will cross it. if I was to have a failure, say 5 meters before it at 60 meters high, I'm going to land smack probably in one of the lanes. However, if I'm halfway across or I'm nearly over or whatever, because I'm in movement, the aircraft's going to carry itself over. I'm going to hit what's on the other side. So I'm always thinking safety, but I also you can't foresee an unforeseen incident. So you can't foresee a shutdown. No matter what happens, you cannot predict your aircraft is going to fall out the sky, just crash and just fail. So as long as you do your pre-flights, as long as you check your batteries all right, you're checking your props are all right, you check the airframes all right, it's airworthy to your knowledge, you can take off. It shouldn't really ever fall out of the sky just unwillingly. You know what I mean? It shouldn't just crash. It does happen, but shouldn't.
Again, so this is even with some of the rules now, right? So if, you can never fly over people, okay? I think that blanket statement is not correct because there are going to be people, and incidentally, there will be people. If you're not hovering over, the crowd, where it comes down on the crowd or people, or maybe it's just, for an instant, or there are people nearby or whatever, or even crossing a road. Most of the shots that I'm talking about, everybody thinks it's really cool to like fly down the motorway. And you're entirely correct. Here, Caltrans says that like if a bag or a plastic water bottle goes, airborne on the highway, people usually will get into wrecks because they get startled and scared or whatever else. So I think there are safe ways to operate, and I think some of the blanket prohibitions are heavy-handed. But that is something for the operator. You have to. It's the same deal with your car, right? I mean, I don't know. Maybe you guys do. I drive like a grandpa. I don't get in there and peel out and do nutty stuff, because I want to be safe. I don't want to be unsafe. What's that for?
It was my wife, not me.
Oh, okay.
You'll get those. If you got a cruise missile, you'll get those.
So I mean, this is how bizarre our rules are in the UK. This is how crazy the rules are then. So if you fly under the A2C of C, you have to have horizontal separation between people and your height. So they call it the 1-to-1 rule. So 5 meters away, if you're 5 meters high, they've got to be 5 meters away. You're 10 meters high, they have to be 10 meters away. But then we have the legacy aircraft that are not C marked. You've got to be 50 meters horizontal separation between any unprotected, uninvolved people. So that's a cylinder that you're in the middle of that's 100 meters across. It's 50 meters in every, which is nigh on impossible to do. That's with the A2C of C. With the same aircraft, with what's known as the GVC and Civil Aviation Authority operational authorization, the same aircraft, as long as you're 50 meters separation, not horizontal now, they're just talking separation. So you can be 50 meters, 52 meters above them. You can overfly them. That is permitted. So it gets quite interesting because one rule under an A2C of C, and then all of a sudden with the operational authorization, all of a sudden it's like, well, you've done a flight test, so you go out and do a flight test for the GVC and the CA part of it. That's proving that you're safe enough then to be able to work out the mitigations for the overflight part. It's quite bizarre. Up to 25 kilo aircraft can do that. So I can take any 25 kilo aircraft and literally fly it around any city, over houses, over people, over cars, just not assemblies of people.
Well, I don't know.
Crazy to a degree. So it is all about mitigating the risk. I would never stop and hover above a road. I would never stop and hover above a footpath. I would actually find a tree. If I want to stop and hover somewhere in an urban area, I generally will sit it above a tree because the tree will break the drone's fall. If it was to get hit by anything, something's to go wrong, stop and hover. I'm hovering above trees because it sounds daft, but it's one of those things you just, okay, I can't hit anything. If it falls vertically now, the worst it's going to do is hit the tree and bounce out of that. It'll have broken its fall in some way. It just sounds kind of crazy.
Well, to be fair, somebody also reminded me. Actually, Kevin Finisterre reminded me of as he posted on Twitter. Remember when DJI had flyaway protection?
Oh yeah, flyaway club.
So if I was a regulator, they're not all. I know, it's kind of like people think that I really hate the FAA. I don't really hate them, It's just I think some of their ideas are crazy. But if I were to hear that, you're like, okay, wait a minute, you can buy these drones and. Look here, you had flyaway protection. Oh, that sounds a little sketchy. So, they are getting better, and depending upon the equipment, I think there needs to be a standard baseline.
I don't think. To me now, flyaways are not really flyaways. To be honest, most of the time, the stuff I see is it gets blown away because people fly it in too windy conditions. You generally don't really see flyaway issues unless people are just not paying attention to what they're doing. I was flying on Monday and I managed to get like compass errors every flight. I was getting a compass error and just losing GPS. And it just became like, really?
That's user error.
No, it wasn't this user error. It was because the police station next to me, their aerials were doing something really dicky. That's what
Tetra radius. Philip, good evening or good afternoon to you. How are you doing?
G'day. Afternoon, I think apparently now. Yeah.
Yeah. And how's the AUVSI show?
It's really good. Lots of people here, so that's really cool. Hardly any DJI here, so that's even better. Yeah, that's good.
Really hardly any. Genuinely hardly any.
Yeah. Well, I did about a third of the floor today, and I think I saw 3.
DJI's got a booth, but it's not anything like they had before.
So you got Jeff here too.
Hi, everyone.
Hello.
So,
how's it?
I walked, and Jonathan over here.
Hello.
How's it, Jonathan? So that's quite a big change. So what's filling up the floors then?
Cubes.
No. I think Philip is about to reveal the new product. It's no longer cubes. Now it's spheres. Now he sells spheres.
The football.
Nah,
That'd be absolutely really cool because you could have footballs then.
We could.
Yeah.
Yeah. No products to announce today, so we're just purely walking around and enjoying the show and looking at what everyone else is doing. So it's been pretty good. Caught up with Geordie from MRO.
Yeah.
That was good. We spent some time having a good old chat, and some of the guys from Gwyn Partners, bit of a 3DR catch up. So that was good. Yeah.
Some sort of effigy burning ceremony or something like that, or some form of thing.
No one has seen that person here, so I think we're all safe. We did immediately change our lanyards from the supplied ones to I've got a Mission Go one, which is very nice. Because this is the supplied one,
and it has.
Oh.
Yep.
So we had to get rid of that real quick.
It really cost $1,000 to make that not happen again.
Anyway.
Yeah, that was an expensive buy for them, wasn't it, to get that in there? I suppose.
Oh well, not compared to how much they've spent on their massive booth and
both of them.
VC money. Yeah.
Yeah. Only lasts so long, though, doesn't it? Only lasts so long. So what's the trend there? Is it multi? Yeah. Is it multi-rotor or is it fixed wing or helicopter even? What's is there any really gee whiz thing?
Obviously Ascent Aero's there, which is really cool. I love their multi what would you call that? Twin coax
copter.
That thing's really
It's awesome.
Mission Go was there with their trad heli. It's always nice to see a trad heli. There's a submarine there, which was pretty cool. Not quite sure how that flies, but that was nice.
Flights here.
Yeah,
a bunch of defense shops.
Yeah, a bunch of defense wannabes as well. So
So are you sort of getting a buzz of blue SUAS, blue SUAS, SBI Aeropros, blue SUAS?
Oh, look, I think people are, the blue SUS thing is, to be honest, a bit of a farce. I mean, I say that, and over 50% of the ones that are selected have cubes in it, but the whole selection process and everything, it's he who's willing to put up with enough bullcrap can get through. I don't know. I mean, DIU was a great idea when it started, when Mike Jacobson and Ryan were running the show. But since that three-letter agency took over, it's been a joke, to be honest. And it is what it is. So, yeah. What's frustrating is places like Florida have declared that no government agency in Florida can use something unless it's listed.
And that's counting legitimate blue UAS, like guys who have actual hard, like, so to recap Philip's Florida point, there's a Florida drone company that I've been working with that is literally sitting on a purchase order for like 100 cubes and 100 HearLinks, and they can't release it to me because they can't sell their product to the state agencies here that they've been courting for 4 years. And so a legitimate made in USA product is getting railroaded into near bankruptcy or whatever because the law is structured poorly and was rammed through legislative affairs too quickly, and no one got to comment on it.
Yeah, the other thing you need with blue is an advocate on the inside is very helpful with the blue UAS.
Yeah, look, I mean, in some ways I'm glad we haven't had one because, our stuff in there is 100% legit in there.
Organic. Because
we didn't lobby, we didn't do any of that sort of stuff. And that's been really helpful outside of the US. Our presence outside of the US has actually increased due to that because they know we're not big enough to afford a lobbying company. So that's nice. Yeah. But anyway.
You got a cinema? What are you talking about? You got a cinema?
We do have a cinema. Yes.
Yeah, I mean. No, so yeah, the Ascent Aero thing we saw, has that got a cube in it then?
Yep.
Okay, yeah, I saw that today. That delivery version.
Yep. Yeah, so that's pretty cool. Yeah. No shortage of cool stuff. Speedbird Aero were up here. They've got their delivery stuff out of Brazil. That's really cool as well. So yeah.
Much AAM, urban air mobility.
There is something, I haven't got to that section, but there is something that looks along the lines of that in a full-size something. From what? I don't know. I know. But I haven't looked at it yet. I'll get to that tomorrow.
E-Hang would be the one, wouldn't it? Because they're pushing like Billio. So
E-Hang's not here.
E-Hang's not here. I haven't seen any of the names that are popular for Chinese e-mobility.
Nah, I don't think it's any of the normal ones we know.
And what size booth has Autel got?
Autel's here. Autel's got a big booth here.
I haven't got to that bit yet.
Yeah, I walked it before I started talking to people.
Yeah, I got in and started talking, so that was a mistake. I didn't get very far. It's not like me to talk for hours.
There's also a lot of people. There's also a lot of people who are here who are walking and have had a booth in the past, but have decided to walk the show. And just because it's easier, it's lighter. I mean, that's what I'm doing this year. I mean, we usually had a booth, and we just said, bugger that. We're just walking it. It's easier, it's faster. If you don't have a huge staff, hey, there you go. Mobile booth.
Yep. So anyway, enough about us. How are you guys?
Fine.
Bruce,
fine,
have you been arrested
yet? Ian's been gone. Bruce has got tickets, and Patrick's as controversial as ever. And Louis just always comes in. We did you were mentioned in the Gatwick piece, or you weren't actually mentioning this one.
But I saw my name in the FOI there. Yeah, it's actually an interesting FOI because I mean, we rang up Sussex Police and offered our services if they found an RG Pilot or PX4 drone, blah blah blah. But so I don't see why it's that hard for them to just say, yeah, we were offered their services, but as we actually never found a drone, we didn't need it. It's not a hard answer, but they've turned it. Just everything is blocking for no real reason. It's not. But anyway, they did happen to tell us they didn't believe there was a drone at the time on the phone. But That's probably the bit they're more concerned about saying publicly. But anyway, yeah. And I doubt there's an actual transcript of that phone conversation. So
there should
I'm
be.
surprised
If
they
you're
haven't just,
if you're ringing a government
suppose,
office,
yeah.
there should be.
Yeah,
There
true.
should be. There should be a recording anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, it well, and the interesting thing is this chap who stuck his head above the parapet and said, "Yeah, no, I know what happened." Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So
And he's tucked away.
amazing. It's amazing. I'd be interested when you're walking around if you see on any of the stands Gatwick being used as part of the counter UAS narrative for folks.
Yeah, the only CUS one I've seen now is a drone that claims that it's faster and more maneuverable than any racing drone.
Yeah, right.
That is a grenade, a flying grenade.
Yeah.
Basically, it chases down the drone and then blows up near the drone to destroy it.
No, I said it was a kinetic.
No.
Kinetic on the reverse.
It's probably optional kinetic.
He said it's grenade.
I didn't say, well,
Not him.
No.
The guy at the booth.
There's actually
not him.
no, there's surprisingly little counter UAS stuff here relative to what it was in the past. Yeah, there's a radar company that I've seen but haven't talked to yet. And there's a couple of like drone in a box counter UAS folks, and then there's the thing you guys saw. And I walked by it because it was forgettable, to be honest.
Yeah. The only reason we stayed there is that other drone had a cube in it, so we took a photo. Yeah.
So most of them, the money is running out on the counter UAS things.
Well, I think the reality is that governments who are going to buy that sort of equipment have picked who they're going to use and have bought it.
Yep.
And until one of them actually turns up with a system that actually works, there's really nothing more they can offer on the snake oil that's already been sold. So, and even the governments that have bought things like Drone Shield and stuff like that, they know it works okay on the DJI stuff, and they get that. And so it's a psychological win. And they know it doesn't work on anything else, and they just go, that's okay, the public doesn't know that, so it's all right.
Yep.
So
we will ask for funding when that becomes a problem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that feeds right back into the thing in Florida. I mean, everybody knew that was going to happen eventually, that the law enforcement was probably going to have to not use drones that are spying. You got chain of custody ideas and things like that. And I remember years ago saying that will probably is going to happen. And if you go ahead and you buy these Chinese drones that are questionable, that purchase may blow up in your face, and you may have angry taxpayers because they bought all of this equipment. But the
problem is they, if they wanted to ban DJI, obviously no one on this group's going to complain about that. But I might be biased, but that's one thing. To then take Autel out with baby with the bathwater, I can sort of understand because most of their stuff looks like it's copied DJI stuff anyway. So, but when you're taking out American drone manufacturers because they haven't been selected on some DIU list that is just arduous to get through, that's silly. That's beyond protecting from.
And not only that, the specific company I'm talking about is incorporated in Florida.
You have to understand, and I could go on a dissertation about this, but that show that you're at, those people are partially responsible for the problems that we have in the United States.
Oh, we know.
So, you have that. You have a situation with a regulator that really has done everything they can to destroy a domestic industry, and people wanted to play with the toys, and what was available at a price point was something that was funded by the PRC. So America, we created our own problem for this, and a lot of the Western government did it too. So, and you're right. I mean, I've talked to other companies that are domestic companies, and they want to become Blue UAS. They've told me, it cost about $150,000. I don't know who you're paying, but as I always say, that's not happening without an advocate on the inside of the machine. So, and I don't want to go on a deep dive on that one because I'd probably get in trouble with that. But there's a lot of reasons that we don't have those capabilities there, and that's going to spread. I think that's going to spread. It's not only going to be Florida. There are going to be other states that are going to say, "Hey, you know what?"
I'm hoping there'll actually be a backlash on that because I know in Australia, our government's looked at a lot of this stuff, and they're very wary of that particular one Chinese company, but they're also smart enough to realize that unless there's an internet connection, there are times and a place for most things. So even the DJI stuff's not completely banned. It's banned from X, Y, Z, this operation, that operation, blah, blah, blah. And there's a risk management down the chain to, I mean, a firefighter, who cares if they use a DJI thing? I mean, I'd love it if they don't, from the point of view of they could buy something with a cube in it. But let's be real here. It doesn't matter.
Well, yeah, I would agree with that. Although I will say, here we had that issue where we had that incident that happened in Las Vegas, and you had federal law enforcement was in a no-fly zone, and they couldn't fly the drones that they bought with taxpayer dollars on basically a hot crime scene until they got Becky on the phone and Jen. I mean, come on, that's totally ridiculous. And even with the video that we're seeing in the Ukraine with how they're targeting people that are turning on their radio.
Targeting the controller. I mean, that's just. I'm sorry, but DJI USA needs to be taken to task to actually get to the bottom of that. It's pretty clear it's real. The evidence is real. I know our government believes it's real, and they have evidence to back up their theories. DJI needs to be brought to task on that one. I mean, directly targeting.
Well, they're not selling. They're not selling to Russia and Ukraine now. They've announced today. So they've announced it today. No, come on, the dealers will be closed down.
There wasn't going to stop them.
And the damage is already done. The aeroscope hardware is already in country.
Yeah.
Are you suggesting that saying that?
Blatantly lie. Yes, and quote. Brendan. I know
Brandon's not there anymore.
That's what he says. He's still their fanboy. Sorry, Brendan.
Yeah. Well, he has to be, because he would look like a commie stooge that was on the payroll. That's all there is to it. The guy repeatedly lied and got caught in lies. So you either, do. I mean, I don't know. I've worked for companies. I worked for one that was a military contractor, and I know everybody's going to find this hard to believe, but I made jokes the whole time I worked there. And then I finally got run out of there on a rail. But it was like, these are unfair, or these practices are not right, and if you don't like them, then don't do them, So I think here's the main rub. I like the Chinese, I like the DJI, it's great. All I wish is that we had, let's say, a footing to have competition. Okay, is that put it in a nutshell?
Well, we have the option for that, but. Unfortunately, I as much as it's very easy for me as an ex-3DR person to blame Chris for everything that went wrong, I actually think the blame fairly sits on the shoulders of the Department of Commerce. They're the absolute morons who banned the sale of American drones outside.
And here's the thing.
I told them that was going to happen. I told them that was going to happen.
There's 25 years of history to back up what Philip has said. You go pick the regulatory specialists that are walking this floor selling consulting services. They'll all tell you pretty much the same thing. 20-something years of bad export policy is why we're in this position, and it's not going to change until the export policy gets overhauled. And that's probably been the case since I was a baby, according to some of the things that my parents who worked in defense have told me about their sadness and headaches and just constant pain in the butt from export control. This is an export control problem that is ruining our capacity to compete, basically.
Myself,
Chris, I warned him about it, and I told him that it was going to happen, and it could be retroactive. And he left. He's had friends in the White House Office of Science and Technology Policy, and I will say that he circumvented the ITAR thing in short order.
Well, it wasn't ITAR. It wasn't ITAR.
It's EAR.
No.
It was Department of Commerce. Yep. That's not military. It's not. Like it's the Commerce Department were the ones that did it,
and it's also the lawyers that are hired to consult when you do get in trouble. Yeah. They don't know what they're doing. They don't know how to deal with this new industry. And so, like when we were at 3DR, they came up with this spreadsheet that was just atrociously difficult to comply with. I went through, reread the thing, and just line item said, "You're wrong. You're wrong. You're wrong. You're wrong. You're wrong." They went back. They thought about it. 2 weeks later, hey, guess what the spreadsheet said? Funny how that works.
Actually, the funniest that happened, I was sitting at 3DR
that was
around
hilarious.
the table, and we had this extra lawyer,
$1,000 an hour bragging about it.
Yeah.
Crazy.
And she was sitting there saying what we can and cannot export. And I said, look, I just have to ask the question. I'm sitting in this room with my Australian passport. I'm not an American. I just designed this. That's all I did. Are you saying that because I designed it, you're not allowed to send it to Australia? And she said, yes, we can't send this to Australia. I said, the design comes from Australia. It's made in the USA, but it comes from Australia. So what you're saying is the only way I can get one of these in Australia is if I make a copy of it in Australia. No, you can't do that. It's American technology. I said, I beg your pardon? It's
Australian
not.
technology.
It's designed in Australia. And I mean, before me, it was Dr. Ziploc, South Australian.
Yes.
The Pixhawk from day one has been an Australian product. And sorry, export control, but no,
you're wrong.
Because we shared it with 3DR, and 3DR is an American company. No, this is American technology now. And I'm like, wow, that sounds like China. Like, that's the sort of logic. We gave it to China. China's
who was it? There was someone else. One of the early people went to Australia. An American went to Australia, had his idea, and then went back to America again. And that protected that. It's not Silvertone. I can't remember who it was, but there was somebody did that. One of the early pre-Argipilot days. One of the early guys did exactly that from America. An American went to Australia, had his idea, then went back, and that made it okay to sell.
Yeah, it doesn't work that way apparently, according to the Department of Commerce. But basically, what that meant is, well, we'd already released all the drawings to Pixhawk at this stage as open source, and so there we go, bang good, away you go. There's the Chinese drone industry. They can't get that. They can't get APMs. The drawings are there. There's a vacuum in the industry. The world is supplied by Chinese drones. Even the Phantom 3 Pro, that was a Pixhawk inside. There's no hiding it. The schematic was the same as our schematic on the inside of that. It's Department of Commerce. I blame. I'd say at least 80.
Who do you think was that? I'm sure it was the DoD guys.
Nah, the DoD were on our side. Yeah, they were on our side. They knew the ship had sailed. They were smart enough.
I don't. You're they're not on. They were not on Chris Anderson's side in 3D Robotics.
We don't care if they're on Chris's side.
We just care if they're on our side.
You're talking about Commerce Department and 3D Robotics and the product.
No. The Commerce Department is not 3D Robotics. We're talking about the Department of Commerce from the federal government.
Yes, I know. All right, whatever.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah, and I mean, myself and Tridge got dragged in on export control in Australia, and the Australian military just explained to export control that if we're not allowed to do what we're doing, the Chinese are just going to do it anyway. So this ship has sailed. It's too late. Sorry. So
that's very interesting. That's very interesting. It's so it's loads of microrotors, hopefully loads of cubes. Nothing really that's really rung your bell yet for exciting and new.
There was a remark from one of the guys that I've known for a few years when we were walking together in the show, and it was, "Wow, this is a lot of rows of the same stuff."
I was happy because that same stuff had cubes in it.
Yeah,
it's all got cubes in it. Yeah.
Yeah, I was talking with someone else. It's like you could probably condense the show in terms of like new, useful, interesting stuff. You could probably condense the show down to maybe 2 rows, and everything else is just duplicates and noise. Yeah.
So basically, it's all skins for the cube.
Yep.
Skins. Yeah. That's a good idea.
That purchase was agreed in my inbox.
Very good.
That's a good idea. And your education, when's your education product coming? Come on. I'm having people talking to me now. Hurry up.
Yeah, working on it. Chip shortage combined with stupid errors on our part we've been chasing down an error with the GPS that turned out that we just had the wrong part on the board. 3 months of debugging later, we just feel like idiots, but it happens. Anyway.
How dare you admit your mistakes? You should go to the Gatwick School of Training.
Yeah, the number of times I've been told off for admitting our mistakes or reporting when we have a bug or a hardware fault or something like that. And I've had people lecture me about being very unprofessional about admitting we have mistakes, and I'm like, well, you probably don't understand the aviation industry.
No blame.
It happens.
Yeah,
it happens.
Well, there's anything that arrives on the scene with no backstory, you instantly disbelieve, don't you? Here's our latest thing. It's been brilliant from day one. We've had no problems with it. We've never crashed one, and it's just brilliant. And you've now got to buy 1,000 of them. It'd be an utter fool to believe all these instant creation stories that come out there. It really would. Yep. It really would. Look, now we've been here an hour and 35, and we were just going to go before.
Sorry about that. I checked my message and realised I was an hour out. I sent you a reply with a apology, but thought I better jump on anyway. So.
Well, it's very good of you. It's very good of you. So before
at
we
least
go,
you guys managed to talk before I took over the show.
Yeah, of course, yeah. Well, that was the main thing. Yeah, get it done before you arrived. Yeah. Has anyone else seen anything else before we go? Going once, going twice, dear viewer, wherever you're in the world. Thank you very much for joining us. Have a lovely, safe rest of the week, and we'll see you again next week, 2100 GMT. Cheers for now. Bye-bye.